courtroom doors swing open with a confidence that borders on arrogance. She walks in like she owns the building designer heels, clicking against the worn tile floor of Providence Municipal Court, sunglasses perched on her head, despite being indoors, a leather handbag that costs more than most people in this room make in a month dangling from her wrist. Madison Hartwell, 24 years old, daughter of Senator Richard Hartwell, one of Rhode Island's most powerful political figures. And she knows it. Judge Frank Caprio looks up from the case file on his bench, his reading glasses resting on the bridge of his nose. He's seen thousands of people walk through these doors over his decades, on the bench, the nervous, the remorseful, the defiant, the desperate. But there's something about the energy Madison brings into the room that makes him pause. It's not just confidence. It's entitlement. And in his courtroom, that's a dangerous thing to carry. Madison Hartwell? Judge Caprio says, his voice warm but measured, the way it always is when he's trying to read someone. That's me, she says, not quite making eye contact, her tone casual, almost bored. She doesn't approach the podium with any sense of gravity. She strolls up like she's been interrupted during a shopping trip. The bailiff stands a little straighter. The court clerk exchanges a glance with the prosecutor. Everyone in the room can feel it, the tension that comes when someone walks in, treating a courtroom like an inconvenience rather than a place of consequence. Judge Caprio removes his glasses and sets them down gently. He folds his hands on the bench and looks at her. Really looks at her, the way he does when he's trying to see past the surface. Do you know why you're here today, Miss Hartwell? She shrugs. Actually shrugs. Something about parking tickets, I think? I don't really keep track of that stuff. My assistant usually handles it. The judge glances down at the file. His expression doesn't change, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes, not anger, not judgment, just awareness. He's already starting to understand who he's dealing with. You have 17 unpaid parking violations spanning the last 14 months. Total fines and penalties come to $4,200. Madison waves a hand dismissively. Yeah, okay. I'll have someone write a check. Can I go? Judge Caprio doesn't answer right away. He leans back slightly in his chair, studying her. The courtroom is silent. Even the people waiting for their own cases in the gallery have stopped whispering. They're watching. This is the kind of moment that makes Judge Caprio's courtroom different from any other. Because he doesn't just process cases. He processes people. Miss Hartwell, he says quietly, this is a court of law, not a drive-through window. When you come before this bench, I expect you to show respect not just to me, but to this process, to the people in this room, and to the responsibilities you have as a citizen. For the first time, Madison actually looks at him. There's a flash of something surprise, maybe, or irritation, but she recovers quickly. Look, Your Honor, no disrespect, but I'm sure you know who my father is. Senator Hartwell? I really don't think this needs to be a big deal. Just tell me what I owe, and I'll take care of it. The temperature in the room drops. The prosecutor shifts uncomfortably. The bailiff's jaw tightens. But Judge Caprio's expression remains calm, almost serene. He's heard this song before. The name dropping. The assumption that power is transferable, that privilege is a shield. He's seen it in corporate executives, in wealthy business owners, in people who've spent their whole lives believing the rules bend for them. But not here. Not in his courtroom. "I don't care if your father is the President of the United States," Judge Caprio says, his voice still gentle, but now carrying a weight that fills every corner of the room. "In this courtroom, you are Madison Hartwell, a citizen of Providence, Rhode Island, who has violated the law 17 times and failed to address it. That's who you are to me. So I'm going to ask you again, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Do you understand why you're here?" Madison's face hardens. The mask slips just a little. "I already told you. Parking tickets." "It's not like I robbed a bank." "No," the judge agrees. "But you parked in handicapped zones 3 times. You parked in front of fire hydrants. You blocked loading zones outside small businesses, preventing deliveries from getting through. You accumulated these violations across the city, in neighborhoods where people work 2 jobs just to get by, where every parking spot matters because they don't have driveways or garages. And when you were ticketed, you didn't pay. You didn't show up. You ignored every notice sent to your address. Until finally, a warrant was issued, and you were required to appear." She crosses her arms. "Fine. So I screwed up. I'll pay the stupid fine. Are we done?" Judge Caprio is quiet for a long moment. He picks up his pen, taps it gently against the file, then sets it down again. When he speaks, his voice is softer, almost fatherly. "Talk to me, Ms. Hartwell. Help me understand. You clearly have the means to pay these fines. You could have taken care of this months ago. So why didn't you?" "Because I forgot, okay?" she snaps, and now there's real irritation in her voice. "I have a life. I have things going on. I'm not sitting around obsessing over parking tickets." "What kind of things?" the judge asks, and the question is so simple, so genuinely curious that it catches her off guard. "What? You said you have things going on. What kind of things?" "What do you do, Miss Hartwell?" She hesitates, as if the question is a trap. I'm between jobs right now. I was working in PR, but I'm taking some time to figure out my next move." Judge Caprio nods slowly, absorbing this. "And where do you live?" "East Side. Near Brown." "Do you live alone?" "Yeah, my dad owns the condo. I'm just staying there while I sort things out." The judge makes a note. His face is unreadable, but his mind is working, piecing together the picture. Privileged background. No financial pressure. No immediate consequences. A life insulated from the realities most people in this courtroom face every single day. And yet, there's something else here. Something underneath the attitude and the dismissiveness that he can't quite put his finger on yet. He's learned over the years that people don't become who they are in a vacuum. There's always a reason. Always a story. "Miss Hartwell," he says, "I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, I'm looking at someone who seems to believe that the rules don't apply to her. Someone who thinks that because of who her father is, she can do what she wants without consequences. And maybe that's worked for you in other places. But it doesn't work here. Not in my courtroom. Madison's eyes flash. You can't talk to me like that. I can, Judge Caprio says, still calm, still measured. And I will, because that's my job. My job is to hold people accountable. My job is to make sure that justice is fair, that everyone who walks through that door is treated the same, whether they're a senator's daughter or someone who can barely afford bus fare to get here. So yes, Miss Hartwell, I can talk to you like this. And I am. The silence that follows is deafening. Madison stares at him, her face flushed, her jaw set. And then, in a voice that's meant to sound threatening, but comes out more desperate than powerful, she says the words that will define this entire hearing. You can't touch me. The words hang in the air like a challenge. You can't touch me. 4 words that carry the weight of a lifetime of insulation, of doors opened by someone else's name, of consequences deferred or dismissed. Judge Caprio doesn't react immediately. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't bang his gavel. He simply looks at Madison Hartwell with an expression that's somehow both compassionate and unflinching. Miss Hartwell, he says quietly, you need to be very careful about what you say next. But Madison is already too far gone, the adrenaline of defiance overtaking whatever better judgment she might possess. I'm serious. Do you know what kind of connections my family has? One phone call and what? Judge Caprio interrupts, his voice still soft, but now edged with something that makes everyone in the courtroom sit up straighter. One phone call, and I lose my job? One phone call, and these parking violations disappear? One phone call, and the law changes to accommodate you. He leans forward slightly. Miss Hartwell, I've been on this bench for over 30 years. I've served this community through recessions, through scandals, through political upheavals that would make your head spin. And not once has anyone's phone call, anyone's connection, anyone's name changed how I run this courtroom. So please, help me understand what you think is going to happen here. Madison's bravado wavers. She shifts her weight from one foot to the other, her arms still crossed defensively, but now there's uncertainty in her eyes. She's not used to being challenged this directly. In her world, the threat of her father's influence has always been enough. The implication that consequences could be made to go away has always worked. Until now. The prosecutor, a woman in her 40s named Elena Rodriguez, who's worked with Judge Caprio for years, steps forward. Your Honor, if I may, the defendant's attitude is concerning, but I think we should also address the fact that she was pulled over this morning on her way here. The officer noted in his report that she was driving erratically and appeared to be texting while driving. No citation was issued because she was already required to appear in court today, but it speaks to a pattern of disregard for traffic laws. Judge Caprio's expression darkens slightly. Is that true, Miss Hartwell? Were you texting while driving? I was checking my GPS, Madison mutters. While the vehicle was in motion? I guess. You guess? The judge's tone sharpens just a fraction. Miss Hartwell, Do you understand that distracted driving kills people? That it's one of the leading causes of accidents in this state? That there are families in Rhode Island who have lost loved ones because someone couldn't wait to check their phone? I didn't kill anyone, she shoots back. Not yet, Judge Caprio says, and the words land like a physical blow. Not yet. But if you keep driving like that, keep treating the law like it's optional, eventually you will hurt someone. Maybe yourself. Maybe someone else. Maybe someone's child. And when that happens, no amount of connections, no senator father, no expensive lawyer is going to undo that damage. For the first time, Madison seems genuinely shaken. Her arms uncross. Her gaze drops to the floor. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Even the clock on the wall seems to have stopped ticking. Judge Caprio takes a breath, then continues in a gentler tone. Ms. Hartwell, I need you to hear what I'm telling you. I'm not your enemy. I'm not trying to humiliate you, but I'm trying to get through to you before something terrible happens. Because right now, I'm looking at someone who's on a dangerous path, and I've seen where that path leads. I've seen the cases that come through here, the Dewey, the accidents, the lives destroyed because someone thought they were untouchable. I don't want to see you back in this courtroom under those circumstances. Do you understand what I'm saying? Madison nods, but it's perfunctory. She's still not really there, still not fully engaged. Judge Caprio can see it. He's dealt with enough people over the years to recognize when someone is going through the motions versus when they're actually hearing him. And Madison is still somewhere else, still protected by that shell of privilege that insulates her from real consequence. He decides to try a different approach. Tell me about your family, Miss Hartwell. She looks up, confused. What? Your family. Your father is a senator. What about your mother? Do you have siblings? I don't see what that has to do with... Humor me, Judge Caprio says, and there's something in his voice that compels her to answer. My mom is. She's into charity work, fundraising, galas, that kind of thing. I have an older brother. He's a lawyer in Boston. And what's your relationship like with your parents? Madison's jaw tightens. Fine. It's fine. Fine, the judge repeats, and the way he says it makes it clear he doesn't believe her. Do you see them often? Not really. They're busy. I'm busy. We all have our own lives. And when you were growing up, what was that like? Why does this matter? Madison asks. But there's less heat in her voice now. She sounds tired suddenly, like the act of maintaining her defenses is exhausting. Because I'm trying to understand you, Judge Caprio says simply. I'm trying to understand how someone ends up in my courtroom acting like the law doesn't apply to them. And usually, when I dig a little, I find that there's a reason. There's always a reason. So talk to me, Miss Hartwell. What was it like growing up as Senator Hartwell's daughter? For a long moment, Madison doesn't answer. She stares at the podium in front of her, her fingers drumming against the wood. When she finally speaks, her voice is quieter, less certain. It was, well, complicated. My dad was always working. Campaigns, sessions, events. My mom was always with him or organizing her own things. My brother was the golden child, straight ass, debate team, Harvard. I was just there, the photogenic daughter who showed up at events when they needed a family picture. Judge Caprio listens, his expression softening. This is the part, he's good at the part where he gets people to crack open, to show him the person beneath the performance. That sounds lonely, he says. Madison's eyes flicker with something surprise. Maybe that he's not lecturing her, that he's actually listening. It was whatever. I had money, a nice house, everything I needed. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not offering sympathy, the judge says. I'm offering understanding. There's a difference. You can have everything and still feel like you have nothing. I see it all the time. People who grew up with every material advantage but were missing something else. Something important. Like what? Madison asks, and for the first time, she sounds genuinely curious rather than defensive. But Judge Caprio has been doing this too long to miss the signs. The way her voice wavered. The way her eyes went somewhere else for just a second. He leans forward slightly, his elbows on the bench, his hands clasped. Miss Hartwell, I told you before the recess that I needed you to tell me the truth. So I'm going to ask you directly, were you visiting someone at Rhode Island Hospital? Were you visiting someone at that residential facility? The silence stretches out. Madison's jaw works like she's trying to form words, but can't quite get them out. Her eyes are shining now, and Judge Caprio recognizes that look too. That's the look of someone who's been holding something in for so long that they've almost forgotten how to let it out. Talk to me, he says softly. Whatever it is, I want to help you. But I can't help you if you don't let me in. Madison takes a shaky breath. When she speaks, her voice is barely above a whisper. My mom. Your mom? The judge repeats gently. She's at that facility. The one on the east side. She's been there for 8 months. The words come out in a rush now, like a dam breaking. Early-onset Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed 2 years ago. It got bad really fast. My dad, he couldn't handle it. He put her in the facility and told everyone she was on an extended wellness retreat. He didn't want it to affect his image, his career. He barely visits her. My brother comes maybe once a month, so it's just me. I go every day, every single day, and I sit with her, even though half the time she doesn't recognize me. Even though sometimes she thinks I'm a nurse or a stranger or someone from her childhood. I sit with her because she's my mom and she's disappearing, and I'm the only one who seems to care. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Even the people in the gallery who came for their own cases are transfixed. Judge Caprio's expression has shifted from judicial sternness to something much softer, much more human. This is the moment he lives for, the moment when the story beneath the story reveals itself. And the hospital? He asks quietly. Madison wipes at her eyes with the back of her hand. I have panic attacks. Started about 6 months after my mom's diagnosis. Sometimes they're so bad I can't breathe, can't think. I've been to the ER 4 times in the past year. That's what some of those parking violations were me, parking illegally because I was having an attack and needed to get inside. Judge Caprio lets out a long, slow breath. He removes his glasses and rubs his eyes, then puts them back on. When he looks at Madison now, there's no judgment left, only compassion. Miss Hartwell, why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Because I'm tired of it being an excuse, she says, and now the tears are really flowing. Everyone in my life either uses my mom's condition as a reason to pity me, or they ignore it completely because it's inconvenient. My dad won't talk about it. My brother thinks I'm being dramatic. My friends stopped inviting me places because I'm too depressing now. And I'm just so tired of explaining, so tired of being looked at like I'm broken. So I decided when I walked in here that I was just going to be the spoiled brat everyone expects me to be. At least that's a role I know how to play. Judge Caprio is quiet for a long moment, letting her words settle. Then he does something that surprises everyone in the courtroom. He stands up from the bench and steps down to her level, moving around to stand just a few feet from her at the podium. It's not something judges typically do, but Frank Caprio has never been a typical judge. "Look at me, Madison," he says, using her first name now, and she does, her face streaked with tears. "You are not broken. You are not too much. You are someone who is dealing with an impossibly painful situation with more grace and strength than most people could manage. You show up for your mother every day. You sit with her even when it's hard, even when she doesn't know you. That's not being dramatic. That's love. That's the most important thing a person can do." Madison's face crumples. She covers her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back sobs. The bailiff discreetly hands her a tissue, and she takes it gratefully. Judge Caprio continues, his voice steady and warm. "But here's what I need you to understand. Your pain doesn't excuse the fact that you broke the law. It explains it. It helps me understand why you were distracted, why these tickets piled up, why you didn't address them, but it doesn't erase them. You still parked in handicapped spots. You still blocked fire hydrants. You still drove while texting. And those actions could have hurt someone, could have made someone else's already difficult life even harder. Do you see what I'm saying?" Madison nods, wiping her eyes. "I see it. I do. I couldn't deal with one more thing. I was drowning, and the parking tickets felt so stupid, so small compared to watching my mom forget who I am. But you're right. I could have hurt someone. I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. Grief does that," the judge says. "It makes us tunnel vision. It makes us feel like we're the only ones in pain. But we live in a community, Madison. And when we're part of a community, we have responsibilities to each other, even when we're hurting. Especially when we're hurting." He walks back to the bench and sits down, but his demeanor has completely changed. He's no longer the stern judge lecturing an entitled defendant. He's something closer to a father figure, someone who sees the person behind the mistakes and wants to help them find their way forward. "Tell me about the panic attacks," he says. "Are you getting help for those?" Madison hesitates. "I was seeing a therapist, but I stopped going a few months ago." "Why?" Because every session just felt like I was paying someone to tell me that what I'm going through is hard. I already know it's hard. I don't need someone to validate that. I don't know. No. I need my mom back. I need my family to actually show up. I need something I can't have. Judge Caprio nods slowly. You're right that therapy can't give you those things, but it can give you tools to cope with the fact that you can't have them. It can help you carry what you're carrying without it, crushing you. And Madison, I'm worried that right now you're being crushed. I'm fine, she says automatically, then catches herself. No, I'm not fine, but I don't know what else to do. You start by being honest, the judge says, with yourself, with the people around you, with me. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You let people see that you're struggling and you ask for help. Real help. Not just someone making your parking tickets disappear, but someone actually helping you figure out how to live through this impossibly hard thing you're dealing with. Madison is quiet, processing his words. Then she says something that catches everyone off guard. You know what the worst part is? I'm angry at her. I'm angry at my mom for getting sick, for leaving me even though she's still alive. I'm angry that I have to be the one who shows up, the one who cares. And then I feel guilty for being angry because it's not her fault. And then I'm angry at myself for feeling guilty. It's this endless cycle, and I can't get out of it. Judge Caprio's expression is infinitely kind. That's grief, Madison. All of it, the anger, the guilt, the feeling like you're drowning. That's what it looks like. And it's okay. You're allowed to feel all of those things. Your mom would want you to feel them rather than pretend they're not there. How do you know? Madison asks, her voice small. Because every parent wants their child to be honest about their pain, he says simply. Even when that pain is because of them. Judge Caprio takes a moment, glancing down at the case file one more time before looking back up at Madison. The courtroom is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone present the prosecutor, the bailiff, the clerk, the people in the gallery is completely absorbed in what's unfolding. This isn't just a case anymore. It's a human moment, the kind that Judge Caprio's courtroom has become famous for. The kind that reminds people that justice isn't just about punishment, it's about understanding, about seeing the whole person standing before the bench. Miss Hartwell, the judge says, I need to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. When you walked in here today and said you can't touch me, what were you really trying to say? Madison looks confused. I was trying to intimidate you, I guess. Make you think I had power. But why? Judge Caprio presses gently. Why did you feel like you needed to have power in this moment? She opens her mouth, closes it, thinks. Finally, she says, because I don't have power anywhere else in my life. I can't stop my mom from getting worse. I can't make my dad actually care. I can't make my panic attacks go away. Everything feels completely out of my control. So when I came in here and you started treating me like I was just anyone, like my name didn't matter, I panicked. I needed to feel like I had some kind of control, even if it was fake. Judge Caprio nods slowly, his expression thoughtful. That makes sense. And it tells me something important. It tells me that underneath all that bravado, underneath the designer clothes and the famous last name, you're scared. You're scared, and you're hurting, and you're trying desperately to hold it together. Am I right? Madison's face crumples again. Yes, she whispers. I'm so scared. All the time. I'm scared of who I'll become when my mom finally doesn't know me at all. I'm scared that I'm going to end up like her someday. I'm scared that I'm wasting my life being angry and sad instead of actually living. I'm scared. The judge is quiet for a long moment, letting her words settle in the space between them. Then he does something unexpected. He calls out to the bailiff, David, could you bring me the community resources binder from my chambers? The bailiff nods and disappears through a side door, returning moments later with a thick 3-ring binder. He hands it to Judge Caprio, who flips through it with practiced ease until he finds what he's looking for. He pulls out several sheets of paper and hands them to Madison. These are resources, he says. Support groups for people caring for loved ones with Alzheimer's. Therapists in the Providence area who specialize in grief and trauma. Emergency mental health services for when the panic attacks get bad. I want you to actually use these, Madison. Not just take them and throw them in your glove compartment. Actually call these numbers. Actually show up. Because here's the truth. I can dismiss your fines. I can give you probation. I can do any number of things with this case. But none of that will matter if you don't address what's really going on. The parking tickets are a symptom. The real problem is that you're drowning and you've been too proud or too scared to reach for a life preserver. Madison takes the papers with shaking hands. You're going to dismiss the fines? I didn't say that, Judge Caprio replies, but there's no harshness in his tone. What I said was I could dismiss them. Whether I do depends on what happens in the next few minutes. He leans back in his chair. Here's what I'm thinking. You violated the law. That's a fact. You accumulated 17 parking tickets and ignored them. You endangered other people by parking illegally and driving while distracted. Those actions have consequences. But I also see someone who's in crisis, someone who's been carrying an impossible burden without support, someone who made poor choices, not out of malice, but out of being overwhelmed. So I have to figure out what justice looks like in your case. And I need your help to do that. How can I help? Madison asks, genuinely confused. By telling me what you think should happen, Judge Caprio says. If you were sitting where I'm sitting, what would you do? Madison is taken aback. I don't know. I've never thought about it like that. Think about it now. The judge encourages. You've heard everything that's been said here today. You know what you did. You know why you did it. You know that it was wrong. So what does accountability look like for you? Madison is quiet for a long time, really considering the question. When she finally speaks, her voice is steadier than it's been all day. I think I should have to do community service. Something with seniors, maybe. Or helping other people who are dealing with Alzheimer's patients. Because you're right. I was so wrapped up in my own pain that I wasn't thinking about how my actions affected other people. And I need to be reminded that other people matter. That I'm not the only one struggling. Judge Caprio's face lights up. That's an excellent answer. That's the kind of answer that tells me you actually heard what I've been saying. You're starting to think beyond yourself, starting to see the bigger picture. He makes a note in the file. Here's what I'm prepared to offer. I'm going to reduce your fines from $4,200 to $500. I'm going to put you on probation for 6 months. And I'm going to require you to complete 100 hours of community service at a facility that works with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. Not where your mother is. I think you need a space that's separate from that, but somewhere else in the Providence area. You'll report to this court once a month so I can check on your progress. And I'm going to require documentation that you've engaged with at least one of the resources I gave you: therapy, a support group, something. Because your mental health is part of this equation, Madison. You can't take care of your mom if you don't take care of yourself. Do you understand? Madison nods, tears streaming down her face again. I understand. Thank you. I thank you. But Judge Caprio isn't done. He holds up a hand. Before you thank me, there's one more thing. When you walked in here and said you can't touch me, you were testing me. You were testing to see if I was like everyone else in your life, if I could be intimidated, if your name carried weight here, if you could get away with it one more time. And I need you to understand something very clearly. If you violate the terms of this probation, if you miss a community service hour, if you get even one more parking ticket, I will revoke this agreement and you will face the full penalties. And at that point, there will be no more chances. Your father can't help you. Your connections can't help you. The only thing that will help you is following through. Are we clear? We're clear, Madison says, her voice firm. I won't mess this up. I promise. And now you walk in here trying to throw money at a problem instead of actually asking your daughter if she's okay. So no, Senator, you don't get to write a check and make this go away. You get to sit down, be quiet, and think about what kind of father you've been. And then maybe, if you're lucky, your daughter will give you the chance to be a better one. The senator stands frozen, his mouth open, clearly at a loss for words. Madison is crying again, but this time they're different tears, not just sadness, but relief, like someone finally said out loud all the things she's been holding inside. Judge Caprio sits back down. Senator, you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the proceedings, but if you can't conduct yourself appropriately, I'll have you removed. The choice is yours. For a long moment, no one moves. Then Senator Hartwell, looking smaller somehow than when he walked in, takes a seat in the gallery. He doesn't look at his daughter. He doesn't look at anyone. The courtroom remains suspended in a strange, electric silence after Senator Hartwell takes his seat. It's the kind of moment that Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom has become known for, the moment when the gavel hasn't fallen yet, when the real work of justice is still being done beneath the surface of procedure and protocol. Madison stands at the podium, her father sitting just a few rows behind her, and between them is an ocean of things left unsaid, years of distance that can't be bridged by a single courtroom moment. But maybe, just maybe, this is where it starts. Judge Caprio looks at Madison with an expression that's equal parts stern and tender. "Miss Hartwell, I want to make sure you understand what just happened here. Your father walked in, trying to do what he's probably done for you your entire life, fix the problem with money or influence, make the uncomfortable thing go away. And for a long time, I'm guessing you let him. Maybe you even expected him to. But today, that ends. Today, you take ownership of your life, your choices, your consequences. Not because I'm forcing you to, but because you're finally ready to. Am I right?" Madison nods, wiping her eyes with the tissue she's been clutching. "You're right. I've spent my whole life letting other people clean up my messes, and it made me feel worthless. Like I couldn't do anything on my own. Like I wasn't capable of being responsible. But I am. I want to be." "Then prove it," the judge says simply. "Do the community service. Go to therapy. Show up for yourself the way you've been showing up for your mother. And here's the hard part when you fail, because you will fail sometimes. Don't let your father or anyone else swoop in and save you. Fail, learn, get back up, and try again. That's how people grow. That's how you become who you're meant to be." He glances over at Senator Hartwell, who's sitting very still, his face unreadable. "And Senator, if you're listening, and I hope you are the best thing you can do for your daughter right now, is step back. Let her stumble. Let her struggle. Be there to encourage her, to support her emotionally. But don't you dare pay her fines. Don't pull strings to reduce her community service hours. Don't do any of the things you've probably done 100 times before. If you really love her, you'll give her the space to prove to herself that she's capable. Because until she believes that, nothing else matters." Senator Hartwell doesn't respond, but something flickers across his face, shame, maybe, or recognition. Madison turns slightly, glancing back at her father, and in that brief look is everything years of disappointment, of feeling invisible, of waiting for him to really see her. And maybe, for the first time, he does. Judge Caprio returns his attention to Madison. "There's something else I want to talk about. You mentioned earlier that you're angry at your mother for getting sick, that you feel guilty for being angry. I want you to listen to me very carefully. Your mother would want you to have your life. She wouldn't want you to put everything on hold to sit with her every single day at the expense of your own well-being. I'm not saying you should stop visiting. I'm saying you need to find balance. You need to give yourself permission to have joy, to have experiences, to have a future, even as you're dealing with her present. Can you do that?" "I don't know," Madison says honestly. "It feels selfish." "It's not selfish," the judge says firmly. "It's survival. And it's what anyone who truly loves you, including your mother, especially your mother, would want for you. So part of your homework, along with the therapy and the community service, is to start living again. Go somewhere you've never been. Try something new. Let yourself laugh without feeling guilty about it. Because grief doesn't mean you have to stop living. It just means you have to learn to carry life and loss at the same time." Madison's face is a mixture of pain, and something that might be hope. "I'll try," she whispers. "That's all I ask," Judge Caprio says. Then he picks up his gavel, but before he brings it down, he adds one more thing. "Madison, I believe in you." I know that might not mean much coming from a stranger, from a judge you just met an hour ago. But I've seen thousands of people come through this courtroom, and I've gotten pretty good at recognizing who has the capacity to change and who doesn't. You have it. You're smart. You're self-aware. You're capable of incredible loyalty and love. You prove that every day with your mother. Now, you just need to direct some of that loyalty and love toward yourself. Can you do that? "I can try," Madison says, and this time her voice is stronger. "Good enough for me." Judge Caprio bangs the gavel. Probation is set for 6 months with monthly check-ins. Community service to begin within 2 weeks. Documentation to be provided to the court. First therapy session or support group meeting to be completed within 10 days. "Miss Hartwell, I don't want to see you back in this courtroom for a violation. I want to see you back here in 6 months as someone who's kept her promise to herself." "Understood?" "Understood, Your Honor." "Thank you." But as Madison turns to leave, Judge Caprio calls out one more time. "Miss Hartwell?" She stops, turns back. "The thing you said earlier, you can't touch me. You were wrong about that. I can touch you. I can hold you accountable. I can give you consequences. I can make you face what you've been avoiding. But here's what I can't do. I can't make you change. Only you can do that. And when you do, when you really commit to being better, to doing better, then no one can touch you in a different way. No one can take that growth away from you. No one can diminish what you've accomplished. So in 6 months, I want you to walk back in here and tell me that no one can touch you, not because of your father's name, not because of your privilege, but because you've done the work and you own it. Deal." Madison's eyes fill with tears again, but she's smiling through them. Deal. As she walks toward the exit, she passes her father. For a moment, they just look at each other, years of damage, years of distance, all visible in that single glance. Then Senator Hartwell stands and, awkwardly, uncertainly, pulls his daughter into a hug. It's stiff at first, both of them unsure, but then Madison collapses into it, sobbing into his expensive suit jacket, and his arms tighten around her like he's trying to hold together something he's only just realized is broken. "I'm sorry," he whispers, and the courtroom hears it because the room is so quiet. "I'm so sorry, Maddie." "I know," she says. "Me too." Judge Caprio watches this scene unfold and feels the familiar tightness in his chest that comes with these moments, the moments when justice becomes more than a legal concept, when it becomes a catalyst for something deeper, something more human. This is why he does what he does. Not for the cases that are simple, not for the ones where the verdict is obvious, but for the ones like this, the ones where mercy and accountability meet, where understanding and consequences shake hands, where a person's worst moment becomes the beginning of their better self. After Madison and her father leave, the courtroom slowly returns to its normal rhythm. The next case is called Life Continues. But the people who witnessed what happened, the prosecutor, the bailiff, the clerk, the citizens waiting for their own cases. They'll remember this. They'll remember the moment when a privileged young woman came in acting untouchable and left in handcuffs of a different kind, the kind forged from accountability, from recognition, from the understanding that real freedom comes not from avoiding consequences, but from facing them with courage and honesty. Judge Caprio takes a sip of water and looks at the next file on his desk. He's been doing this for over 30 years, and he'll do it for as many more as he's able, because every single person who walks through that door deserves what he gave Madison today, the chance to be seen, to be understood, to be held accountable, and held up at the same time. That's not just justice. That's humanity. And in a world that often forgets the difference, Frank Caprio's courtroom is a place where both are remembered. 6 months later, Madison Hartwell will walk back into that courtroom. She'll have completed her community service at an Alzheimer's care facility, where she learned that her pain was not unique, that others carried similar burdens with grace and strength. She'll have attended therapy every week, learning tools to manage her panic attacks, learning to forgive herself for being angry, learning to hold space for both grief and joy. She'll have found a job she actually cares about, working with a nonprofit that supports families dealing with Alzheimer's. She'll still visit her mother, but not every single day. She'll have learned to balance presence with self-care, to honor her mother by living fully rather than by disappearing into caregiving. And when Judge Caprio asks her how she's doing, she'll smile a real smile, not a performance, and say, "I'm doing the work." And you were right. No one can touch me now. Not because of who my father is, but because of who I'm becoming. And Judge Caprio will smile back and say what he always says when someone proves him right about their potential. "I knew you could do it. I'm proud of you." Because that's what justice looks like in Frank Caprio's courtroom. Not punishment for its own sake. Not mercy without accountability. But the careful, compassionate work of helping people become the best versions of themselves, especially when they don't think they can. The gavel falls. The case closes. But the story continues, the way all the best stories do, in the quiet moments after the verdict, in the choices people make when no one is watching, in the slow, steady work of becoming someone you're proud to be. And somewhere in Providence, Rhode Island, in a courtroom that's seen thousands of stories just like this one, Judge Frank Caprio picks up the next file and prepares to do it all over again. Because every person deserves justice. And every person deserves the chance to be more than their worst moment. That's the lesson. That's the message. That's why people around the world watch clips of this courtroom and weep, not because they love seeing people punished, but because they love seeing people redeemed. Not because they want to see the powerful humbled, but because they want to see the broken made whole. And in a small municipal courtroom in Providence, Rhode Island, day after day, case after case, Judge Frank Caprio shows them that it's possible.